before the general election.
Let me bring in a third party here now. Drusilla Summers is deputy editor at Brexit Central. Drusilla, we're going to talk about former Prime Minister John Major, who has said that Theresa May needs to become a mediator to help break the Brexit deadlock in Parliament. Thanks for joining us. Just before we get into it, I'm going to play a clip here. This is John Major. He wants MPs to be given a vote on all Brexit options, indicating their preference on the way forward.
Of course she needs to look at the result of the referendum, but she mustn't forget the 48% of the people who actually voted to stay inside the European Union, and whose views cannot lightly be brushed aside as though they didn't exist. But the Prime Minister has other duties as well. It has become evident in the 2 years since 2016, much clearer than it was, what the impact of that is going to be on the lives of everyday people in the United Kingdom. And the Prime Minister and the government and Parliament have a primary duty also to look out for their future well-being, and the well-being of those young people now coming onto the register who weren't there in 2016, and those in future years. So there are a whole series of responsibilities the Prime Minister must weigh.
But just to be clear, before we move on to how she might do what you want her to do, if she thinks there is only one duty, the duty to deliver on the democratic decision of the British people, as she puts it, you would say no, there is a duty that trumps that. There is something more important, even if that means breaking your word, if it means delay, if it means changing your mind.
I would say there are other duties that are equally important that stand alongside it, if I may put it that way, Nick. Let me come back to the question of the result of the referendum before we move on to what we might do then. I think the argument that because there was a majority on one day in a particular set of circumstances, that must stand absolutely sacrosanct forever, even though public opinion may change and facts may change, is a very difficult one to accept. Democracy is always nuanced. 48% wish to remain, and yet the Leavers, who quite frankly won the vote with dubious tactics and downright falsehoods in some cases, totally ignore them. And it's even more bizarre if you actually look at the figures. Only 37% of those eligible to vote actually voted to leave. 63% either voted to stay or did not vote. It will be 100% of the population who may be hurt if we leave, or if we leave with the wrong deal. That is a very clear responsibility for the Prime Minister.
The point I merely wanted to put, and then let's go forward, as you say, about how the Prime Minister gets round those people, your phrase, who are blocked. But I need to put it to you because it's only fair. You say what the Leavers said, but at the time of the referendum you said, and I quote, "If we come out, we are out, that is it. If we vote to stay out, then we are out, and we'll have to get on with it." So you too can eat your words, can't you?
I'm happy to eat my words. The most important thing at the moment is what it is actually going to mean for everyday people. People like you and I, Nick, to be frank. Whatever happens, we'll be okay. We may be hurt a bit, we may gain a bit, but we will be okay. But I'm no longer in politics. I have no axe to grind. I'm not part of the Remain campaign. I'm certainly not part of the Leave campaign. And I can look at it quite dispassionately. I don't have to get elected. I don't have an executive. I don't have whips telling me what to do. And I will tell you my fear. My fear is that millions of people who do not deserve to be hurt, both businesses and individuals and families and young people with their prospects, are going to be hurt. And if I have to eat past words because I now realize that is the case, I will make a meal of them every single day, because it is the future and those people that I believe are the primary responsibility of Parliament. And if Parliament does not address that responsibility, then Parliament, in my view, will have failed in its duty.
Drusilla Summers, one of your own party's grandees there, do you feel he's making any sense?
I'm just absolutely baffled by this. I mean, he's acting as though, everything he said before doesn't count anymore. And granted, we can change our views over time, and many people do as they, go through politics. But to suddenly say that another referendum now is fine, just because he doesn't like the result of it, when he's not fooling anyone.
Well, he's not saying it just he doesn't like the result of it. He's saying that certain facts. You think he is, Edwina?
Oh, yes. He's always been a Remain. I know him better than any of you, remember.
You've encountered him in the past, is that right?
He's an extremely nice man, and he wants to be liked, and he wants the best answers and the best solutions and the compromises and all the rest of it.
So what's wrong with that? I mean, that sounds like a good leader.
Well, he's making the same speech as he made 3 years ago before we had the referendum, and he is not actually arguing in any way that we should accept the result of the referendum. He's saying, can we go back? Can we change our minds? Can we do something different?
As the Prime Minister's done. As our current Prime Minister, and the deal that she's presented on the table doesn't deliver the Brexit that's been promised. And therefore, if you change the Brexit deal that people were voted on, then it's absolutely right and proper that if Parliament cannot get their heads together and sort this mess out, then the alternative is the people who put this upon Parliament was the British people. And in those circumstances, if on Monday the Prime Minister's deal and on the 29th of January gets voted down again and all the other options get voted down, then what do you do in those circumstances? And the last option, I think,
I don't think the option
is a referendum where the people get a chance.
Let's ask Drusilla about this. So Mohammed says there that the public instructed Parliament to leave and sort out a Brexit. Parliament can't deliver on that, so it needs to go back to the people.
Well, Parliament can deliver on it because when Parliament's voted to actually trigger Article 50 and then to respect the referendum result, Parliament actually agreed overwhelmingly to ensure that either a deal was agreed and we go ahead with that on the 29th of March and we leave, or if a deal isn't agreed at that point, we leave the WTO rules. So
Parliament didn't vote for no deal.
People say it's without a deal, but at the end of the day, we'd be going on to a different type of deal. It may not be what everyone wants, but it would happen. So unless we go to something, they go and change the law that's already been agreed and voted on in Parliament, and we then disrespect all of those millions of people who had faith in the system, like they would at a general election or previous referendums, then we have to respect that. If we cannot get a deal through Parliament, we have to leave on WTO.
Absolutely not. No.
And then push forward.
But in any case, no. One of the things that John Major has consistently said is he has pointed out that the referendum has been highly divisive, and that one of the important things to try and do is to try and heal the divisions. It follows that actually, if you have another referendum, it's not going to heal those divisions. It just exposes them once again. It's going to have more, millions of people. And he was talking nonsense about the result. If you agree in advance of a vote to respect the result of that vote, then that's what you're agreeing to do. You can't then, it seems to me, with any kind of honour and consistency, then start to say, most people didn't vote for this. Actually, you agreed to accept the result of the vote. Parliament discussed for many hours exactly how to do the vote. The Electoral Commission worked on with consultation on what the question should be. We had a result. We have
Parliament
had a referendum.
Did not vote for a no deal. I think that's very, very clear. There is a majority in Parliament. Edwina, there is a majority. No, but Drusilla
There's no
said
majority in Parliament for anything.
Parliament voted for a no deal. Parliament did not vote for a no deal. And if you want to put the option for a no deal to the British Parliament, there'll be a clear majority that would vote against that. Now, all I'm arguing here is,
well, then let's see if Jeremy Corbyn will do that. Will he actually propose
Parliament
that?
Cannot, and I pay tribute. I pay tribute to John Major because whatever one's politics, he is consistently standing up for the British interest, and he's got an absolutely right as a former Prime Minister and many years of experience has got the right to speak up on this particular issue. If Parliament cannot decide
us to the worst electoral defeat.
I know you've got some history with John Major that you rather. I don't think it's appropriate to talk about. Well, you seem to be mentioning that fact. For me, it's about the fact if Parliament cannot make its mind up about what options and what deal we're going to have, then in those circumstances, the only option left on the table is to go back to the British people.
The only option. What Drusilla is saying
well, I'm not going to accept a no deal, and I don't think the majority of the country will accept our jobs and economy being attacked.
Well, should we let Drusilla say it?
She said it down. Let me just support her if I may. What she is saying is that Parliament has already taken decisions, including very large majorities of over 400, which can simply simply stand. And
No.
if they simply
Parliament didn't
stand
vote
and they're
for a no
not
deal.
changed, then we leave on March the 29th with no official deal or nothing that is on the table at the moment.
And Drusilla, you would be happy with a no deal situation?
I think at the end of the day we do have to leave. It's something I support. I do think that having a deal would be preferable if we could get one that would actually allow us to still benefit from the opportunities of leaving the EU.
And what about John Major's point that 63% of eligible people didn't vote to leave, but 100% of people would be hurt in the event of no deal?
Well, for a start, he has no crystal ball, like none of us do. We can only advocate on what we feel is going to be the best thing, and what and what we see when we read the reports, when we look at the news and what have you. And so he's absolutely entitled to that view. But as much as I can say, well, I think this will be the best thing for the country, I can't guarantee it any more than he can. And if we start going down the path of breaking down who voted in which age group and what have you, we'd end up tearing apart every single general election we've ever had. And it's just petty. I absolutely respect his career. I respect what he's doing, and the fact that he cares enough. He's clearly not dispassionate about this. He clearly cares, and anyone who actually cares that much should come on and talk about this. Obviously, you have to listen to them, but that doesn't make him right on this. So we have to respect the results.
Drusilla Summers, Deputy Editor at Brexit Central, thank you so much.